So people were really upset at my video talking about the Nintendo Switch, rather why I would not buy a Nintendo Switch, at least not right now. I did say that the lineup was pretty shitty, and some people took offense to that. And they said, and this is something I acknowledge myself in the video, video game lineups are usually pretty bad. There's, with some notable exceptions, like I mentioned the Xbox that came out with Halo, which at the time had, I think, like a 98% approval rating on Metacritic, and the Super Nintendo came out with Super Mario World. The Nintendo 64 came out with Mario 64. But aside from these, video games don't usually have a very strong lineup. And that's true. And I understand the people who are upset that I acted like that means that the, you shouldn't pick up the Nintendo Switch because the games are shit. But what I was trying to say is that there's no variety. The Nintendo 64 came out with 2 games in the US, Pilot Wings 64, Super Mario 64. Super Mario is great. Pilot Wings, I wouldn't have picked up. In fact, I didn't because I didn't have my own money back then, so the decision was not up to me. But I wouldn't have picked up a Nintendo 64 today if that were the case. Same reason why I'm not picking up the Switch. Not being a Zelda fan makes it so the only reason to pick up the Switch right now is invalid for me. And don't forget, Breath of the Wild is an amazing game. Sure, I haven't played it myself, but I believe that people, like, I have a lot of friends, close friends, who are Zelda fans, and they're telling me the game is amazing. I believe them. However, it's not even an exclusive game. There's a lot of people who can just play that game on their Wii U's. For the weird people that fucking bought Wii U's, I don't understand you guys. But one thing I understood better with that video is that it gave me an insight on why people fought over consoles, over video games. When I was a kid in the 90s, the war was between Super Nintendo owners and Sega Genesis owners, which in Brazil, at the time, I think the rest of the world really, it was called the Mega Drive. I believe only in Canada and the US. For some reason, I'm assuming some other company had the copyright on that phrase, on a Mega Drive, so that's why it couldn't be called Mega Drive up here. Back then, the reason, I thought that the reason why people got so riled up arguing about whether the Super Nintendo is better or the Sega Genesis is better, Mario is better, no, Sonic is better. The reason I thought that went on back then is because we needed to justify the choice we made over something that was not entirely under our control. If you chose to buy a Super Nintendo, really, you chose to convince your parents to buy the Super Nintendo, and that's it. Back then, it wasn't very common to have both systems. Correct me if I'm wrong. Definitely was not common in Brazil. I'm not so sure about Canada. I imagine it wasn't very common here either, because things, why would a parent buy a Sega Genesis and a Super Nintendo? As far as parents are concerned, they were basically the same thing. They're these things that you plug onto the TV and play these stupid games on. That's how parents saw these things, right? At least my parents. So that's the thing. I understood it back then. Back then, you had to make your choice. You made your bed, and you have to lie on it. You chose the Super Nintendo. You can't play Sonic, and that's fucking it. Nowadays, the people buying consoles, definitely the people buying consoles when they first launch, are people like me. Young adult, maybe not so young anymore. Adults that have some disposable income and want to play their games. Most of these people, I guarantee you, the people buying a Switch already have other consoles, probably have consoles by other companies. They have their Xboxes or their PlayStations or whatever. So it's weird because that factor, like, I need to defend this purchase because that's the hill I'm gonna die on. I asked my dad to buy me this system. That's all I can have. So now I have to irrationally defend it against any criticism. That does not exist anymore in the same way. Like, the people who buy Switches, if you have the 400 Canadian dollars to pick up a Switch, I'll go out on a limb and assume that you have other consoles in your home. So you don't have to defend that purchase. The Wii has issues, not least of which the fact that it's breaking already. There's these videos on YouTube showing them. There's the Joy-Con falling out of sync. The screen is going fucking crazy. Bugs with the games, what few games there are. So that's what I don't understand. Why are people still that, like, is tribalism over video games still that strong that you have to, like, I bought the Switch, if I admit that the Switch has flaws, or that maybe I didn't really have to buy it right now, that means I'm an idiot and I can't have that? Why can't you just say, you know what, I really love Zelda and I have the money to spare, so I bought it, I don't mind. Like, you can just say that, you know, like you don't have to justify your purchase to some schmuck on YouTube. So that's what I was very, there's a lot of hateful comments on both Twitter and on that Switch video where I explained why I wouldn't buy it. So next time you see somebody criticizing a game you like, it's not even just for games. If you see somebody criticizing something you like, realize that that's just some person saying why they personally didn't like it. If I made that video, like if in that video I was like, people who bought the Switch are fucking idiots and Zelda is a shit game, I would kind of understand people getting butthurt. I mean, I still think it's stupid to let that affect you, to let that rustle your jimmies, as the kids say it these days. Have you also been dropping, like, there's those Twitter phrases that we start saying ironically and then it actually becomes something that you say. I've been doing that. Also, I realized the footage might be kind of weird because I'm using the gimbal to hold the. You don't fucking care about these things. Anyway, yeah, don't get all butt mad because somebody criticized the video game console you're lusting over. It's fine. Okay, if you have the money to drop the cash to play this one game that is worthwhile right now, all the power to you. Okay? Are we still friends? Good. I'll see you guys next time.